Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's my face again. Welcome to the WOTC Now Women's Summit, and this is day 3. I just want to know, I hope everyone has been tuned in for the past 3 days. There's been some amazing panels, and honestly, I've been going back, taking notes, taking it all in and bettering myself as well. So I hope you guys have been doing that too. I am your host for the panel today. I am Mika, a creative consultant. And today I'm going to be hosting, and this one's actually my favorite. I decided to glam myself up because of the ladies that I was going to be, sitting amongst or, talking to. So I thought I can't come here looking like I just woke up out of bed. Let me just do something nice. So today's panel is called Luxury Fashion, Creative Careers and the Arts. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Luxury fashion, creative careers and the arts. Now, this is something that I'm passionate about, so I'm definitely going to be learning a lot from these amazing women. So on the panel today, we have Sabina, who is the founder of Sabina and lecturer at UAL. Then we have Vassia, who's a personal stylist and former fashion consultant at Dior Couture and 3.1 Philip Lim. And then we have Ola, who's the CEO and founder of House of Creation. Then we have Katie, who's the managing director at Scene. Then we have Marine, who's the CEO of MT Art Agency. I want you guys to welcome these women at your homes. And I'm really excited about this panel. Are you ladies excited? Oh, everyone's on muted.
Very much so.
Very much so. So before we go into anything, we will have this is like the norm. Everyone has to introduce themselves and tell us what they do and how they got into their field. So I'm going to start with Sabina, since you're right there in the left-hand side to me. So kick us off.
Sure. Well, it's a pleasure being here. Thanks so much. And you've done a lovely introduction. So just will add a few words to that. My name is Sabina. I'm the founder of the conscious lifestyle brand, also called Sabina. I'm also a lecturer at the University of Arts London, and I work as a consultant with a focus on sustainable business models. So Sabina, my brand, is all about consciousness, storytelling, and innovation. And we offer a range of products and experiences to explore sustainability beyond the product. So it's basically about an approach to give people sustainable products, but also give them understanding of what that actually means and helping them with defining a conscious lifestyle for them.
Lovely. Vassia?
Good morning again, everyone. I'm Vassia. I'm a personal shopper. I used to work for the luxury brand Christian Dior, and now currently I work for a brand Nanushka. What I do, I help people create impeccable outfits, to be honest, and help them to build their wardrobes in terms of if they have to introduce themselves or to attend meetings, or in general just to make them feel good.
Yeah,
that's
love that. Making the women look great. We love.
Yes, it's very important because affects your psychology or your personality, because maybe some of them, they have the knowledge but they don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
So I'm here to help everyone. You
love
know that.
Marie?
Hi, everyone. I'm from the art sector. So I've been in the art sector for 12 years. My first boss was Steve Lazardis, who discovered Banksy. So I was running his gallery. And now I've created the first talent agency for the art world. Now, I know that talent agencies are the most boring thing that everyone knows about in any other sectors. But in our sector, there were only galleries or auction houses. So the idea of rethinking how to integrate the art of artists or spot talent was something very disruptive. We've been going for 5.5 years. We've got a few offices across Europe. And I'm beaming because the Art newspaper, which is the grail in our sector today, has just officialized our model. So you'll just see me smiling stupidly for the entire hour.
Grand. Thank you so much, Katie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Really chuffed to be amongst such inspiring women on a Wednesday morning. But yeah, so I'm Katie. I'm the managing director of Scene. Scene is a creative design and production house, and we specialise in retail and also experiential events. In a nutshell, I guess, for those of you that don't kind of maybe appreciate what that means, we really work alongside brands to help them kind of show up in the physical space. So whether that be external event spaces or in store, we tell brand stories through creativity. So a little like what Sabina's just touched on, it could be a sustainable story, or it could be looking at product innovation. And I guess more traditionally, what the output of that is, it could be pop-ups, it could be store windows, it could be shopping shops, press days, and then looking at more kind of permanent interactions such as store design and fixtures and fittings. So yeah, a bit of a creative beast, so to speak, but working with brands and telling their story.
Love that. Thank you so much, Katie. And Oda.
Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for having me here. So I am the founder of House of Creation, which I just recently founded after moving back from New York, where I've been for the last 8 years. And I'm an architect and a designer, and my brand is about showcasing a multiple digital platform, but also where I can have an interdisciplinary studio showcasing women and other arts of talents and to showcase. Yeah.
Love that. So as you can see, guys, we have a plethora of amazing inspirational women in different aspects of the art. Now, the reason why I love this is because each and every single one of the women that we have on this panel they have different sides of their creative sides, let's just say. So no one is stuck to one thing. And for me, that's something that I can relate to because I consider myself to be a multifaceted woman. And sometimes, you always get told, don't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. But as I can see on this panel today, there's a lot of women who have mastered all the trades and skills that they have. So that's definitely something that we're going to touch on. So going with the multifaceted, I'm going to start off with Oda. So Oda, you're an all-around creative. You're an interior designer, an architect, a creative director, and more. So first of all, how do you do it? How are you able to manage all the skills that you have and make it work?
I think first of all, you need to love what you do. I think that's like a really important factor. If you don't, you're not going to be able to do your fullest, right? And I think living in New York, you have to be able to keep up with that pace. And I think that was a major factor for me to be succeeding because you have a mindset that you can do it all. So where I'm from in Norway, you don't have really that mindset that you can do it all in that sense. So that's also why I left. So I think New York opened up that mindset of that you can do multiple things and that's okay. And yeah.
So in a way, it's almost like you left the place of comfort, came out of it, and discovered yourself more.
Yes, I find
that's amazing for sure. Yeah, that's amazing. So we're going to go into the introductions of how they got into the industry. So I'm going to start off with Maureen. Maureen, how did you start off in the industry? How did you become a lover of the arts?
How did I become? I think I've loved it since I'm 5 years old. I think I'm one of those cliche person that has just done that my whole life. I haven't got any years of life apart from this one. My mum is a primary teacher, so she used to always kind of get me loads of art books, and I was just really into it. And I was very romantic, so I just loved the idea of getting to know this world and getting to be able to escape in this world as well. I wrote a poem to have an internship at the BBC when I was 19, and I thought that I was mad, and so I think they got me on board for that matter, and I just spoke to everyone. I was just so keen to do that. I will have polished your shoes. I will have done anything that you've asked me for. That is all I wanted to do ever. So I've been able to therefore be a gallery director at 21 very early on in London, and then again, just speaking to every single person, I've been able to meet an investor who then enable me to have my own gallery in Los Angeles 2 years later. Then got me exposed to all the talent agencies. So, but I just really wanted to be surrounded by artists who were incredibly talented, and I wanted to be the person that broke all the opportunities for them. I get so excited when I connect people together and something incredible happen. To give you an idea, right now in London, there's 9 public art projects at ours. So if you walk on Regent Street, you have 12 meters of an exhibition by Delphine Diallo, and we've done so many things where I just love inspiring people with the art of the artist. So since I'm 5, this is that boring. Sorry, I'm literally not a jack of all trades. I only know one thing.
Yeah, grand stuff. Vassia, how did you get into your industry? I mean, you've worked with so many amazing brands like Christian Dior, Philip Lim. How did you get into all of that?
So it's a long journey, Mika, because my first degree was a bachelor in finance. So I left everything. I was a banker and I left everything. I started studying fashion. So I have 3 degrees in fashion, one fashion design, fashion styling, and another one in fashion consulting. So I used to work as a junior fashion stylist since I was 19 years old. And then I jumped to the media world and I used as a fashion stylist for Marie Claire in Greece because back then I used to live in Greece, where I am now after the pandemic. Anyway, it's another conversation. After that, I jumped to retail as a private client stylist for at least 6 years. In Greece, we have like huge boutique like Balenciaga, and another multi-brand boutiques, which they carry like brands, high-end brands like Loewe, Bottega, Malaya, and all that stuff. So I was very experienced in that part, and I used to work 6 months in Mykonos as well, doing events. So that gave me a strength to move in London, to start with 3.1 Philip Lim, where I was able to host events because basically personal experience, when you want to add personal experience to someone, you have to be very confident in communication, and you have to approach in different way all the clients. So I moved in London. I started my career with 3.1 Philip Lim as a fashion consultant. And then I was able to host and create twice trunk show for 3.1 Philip Lim in Greece, which was amazing. Basically what we did, me and my team, we moved in Athens. We booked a very nice suite, and I did, let's say, marketing, and I invited all the people, which was great because it was nice to catch up with them again, to find like personalized ways to connect with them and style them basically. Because at the end of the day, the whole point is sales. I think everything where we are able to express ourselves, and the point is to get them there, but at the end to build this connection as well, because personal shopping is for me it's most important, these bonds you have to create it and to maintain it. So I stayed with Philip Lim at 2 years, and then I jumped to Christian Dior, but after the pandemic I couldn't unfortunately continue the collaboration, and now I do personal one-to-one experiences. That was it.
Wow,
But
thank
yeah,
you.
no problem. Thank you.
Honestly, that's amazing. Katie, how did you get into your industry?
I guess mine's probably going to sound a bit more like a traditional route. I guess I would describe myself as like a creative by nature. I've always enjoyed working within a creative team. And ever since I studied textile design at Central St Martin's, I kind of knew that I wanted to continue my journey in the field of fashion. So whether that be working with fashion brands through the styling of their product, or working with them to create campaigns that would be seen in stores and spaces. I guess what I soon learned is that to progress, I had to become a little bit more hands-off. So, for example, when I landed my first role out of uni, I was a creative artist for Anthropology, which is an American brand, and I actually worked with them to bring the brand over to the UK. And I remember just thinking I'd landed this job as a creative artist and I was straight out of uni and I just was like, wow, jobs like this exist. Like I get to be creative, I get to have fun, I get to be really, you know, like hands-on and working in an amazing, inspiring team. And I guess it was at that point I was like, I don't want to let this go. You know, I want to continue this journey. But yeah, you know, as I said, as I progressed on, I moved to Topshop and designed the windows for them. And yeah, slowly just became more and more hands off. So I was becoming a bit more of a puppeteer and building a team around me. And now obviously leading Scene, the creative agency, I just feel blessed that I've got a team of amazing people, and you know, we're super creative, but we do it together, and I get to watch and I get to learn still. So yeah, a bit more of a traditional route, kind of building my way up, meeting people. That's going to be one of my top tips actually, is just continue talking and meeting people, follow up on opportunities. And I guess I've just been lucky to be around people that have really supported me, you know, supported women, supportive men, you know, people that have really kind of seen a skill and championed that and opened doors for me that I've just kind of grabbed and gone for.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Katie. And Sabina, how did you get into your industry?
I think I got into fashion by accident, but also on purpose. By accident, because I don't come from a creative background at all. So no one in my family ever worked in the arts or in the creative industry. But my grandmother, she was just incredible with anything that had to do with fashion. So she knew how to sew, how to knit, how to crochet, and she passed on the skills to me. And I always felt very inspired and amazed by the fact how many things you can do for yourself. So definitely coming from that background of having the love for the making and handcraft in general, and really appreciate that. But then I grew up in Austria as an immigrant child, and that's definitely not a career that is chosen for us, because immigrant parents definitely have a different understanding of what success means, or how you should kind of like explore the possibilities that you got through moving to a European country. So that was for sure a chance to kind of try and convince them. But what I mean with actual landings from purpose is because once I decided I want to work in fashion, once I decided that the whole handcraft aspect that my grandma taught me should become my life, I really went in and went for every opportunity, every job, every internship. Since the age of 14, I've always worked in the fashion industry, done everything from logistics to retail, any great startup, shitty startup, amazing big companies, really bad big companies, anything you can imagine. I've done it all. And at the end, I've decided to go down the educational route and get a degree. So I applied at the university in Vienna in Austria, but they didn't accept me. So I had to take a different route. And somehow, I don't know, there was this moment of weakness or maybe of strength, where I decided to apply at Central St. Martin's and try my luck there, and was accepted. And that's how I moved to London. So then I went to St. Martin's, continued gaining as much work experience as I could. And finally, that led me to starting my own business, which was always the plan. And I think that there was this whole natural progression, because again, knowing what it takes to make a garment, coming from the handcraft aspect, from the maker aspect, it was kind of a no-brainer that whatever I will do will have to do with sustainability, with consciousness, with showing people and passing on the skill that I got from my grandmother, basically. Yeah, so this is the short summary, but of course there were more tears and more pain involved.
It always is in the arts industry. It always is. Ola, how did you get into your industry?
So I realized quickly after high school that I wanted to do something else. And once I finished my bachelor here in Oslo, I sought an internship at an architectural design company in New York. Everybody told me you would never get it. And I was like, okay, fine, watch me. And eventually I did. So I started working for Snøhetta, which is a company that's sort of expanded globally now and internationally. And I worked there for a year, and then I fell in love with New York. And I applied to Parsons. And I finished my education as an architect and a creator there. And shortly after, I realized I didn't want to, work for anyone. after that experience at Snøhetta. And I realized, okay, I have to seek opportunities myself. Nobody's going to give them to me. So I reached out to the dean at Parsons right after my graduation in 2017. And I managed to land a design opportunity for some clients in New York. So I took on project designing and project managing a full duplex unit in Upper West Side on Manhattan. And that's been a wild journey. And it just completed now in January, actually. So right now I'm starting up my own company, and a focus point for me on that project was showcasing other female artists, such as painters, sculpturists, because it's hard to find. A lot of, the furniture industry is a lot of males. And I wanted a female photographer, which was also hard to find because there's a lot of male interior design photographers. And so it was kind of a mission for me to find other female representatives to showcase when I was styling the apartment and completing that. But I managed to find the right atmosphere and the right representatives for that project. And that's sort of what I took with me into creating House of Creation, because I could have called it my own name, but I wanted it to be a creative house where multiple disciplines can come together and work together in the fields of art.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ladies. Very, very inspirational. So the first question to get this conversation started, I'm going to kick it off to you, Maureen. So as the first agency for artists worldwide, you've given many a voice with MT Art. What brought this desire on? What made you decide that I want to help other women or other young people or other people get into the arts?
So I think my conversation has less been about gender at the start. 90% of the sector comes from a privileged background, which means they've all inherited wealth. So I think the class conversation and the wealth and inequalities conversation in my sector is a much bigger conversation on how you can get access. And so I didn't come from wealth. I mean, I'm just low middle class, so just very normal, definitely not dramatic, but it was very different to all my competitors who had cash flow for 20 years to come and very different setup on that basis. So for me, it was really important to build a business that was profitable, which sounds stupid, but 2/3 of businesses in my sector, 2/3 of galleries in my sector pre-COVID were already not making money. So most businesses in my sector are not profitable, which also means that, you are basically in a sector where most entrepreneurs don't really make money, so it's a social status. Most interns are not paid. Most artists have to wait 10 years until they can be financially viable. So my priority was, one, can I build something that's profitable because it will actually help the social access? Two, can I make sure that therefore my artists are supported early enough? And we cover their studio costs every month, and we develop, quite large financial opportunities with them. Whether it's brand or high net worth collectors or public art. And I think that's how hopefully I've helped gender, because I have 50-50% men and women artists. Obviously, I have a great lead in terms of my team as well, of both women and men, same with my investors. And that was important for me because it meant that you're not worried if you want to have kids. You're not worried if you can't work around the clock. You're being supported. You're not precarious. And I think that's whether you are a talent and whether you're a professional. And in the sector where the average contract is 3 months long, that was my priority. It was like, how can I build a safety net? How can I make basically the economics where the social change from what I was looking at?
So for those who have started their own agency or their own companies, what would you say has been the biggest struggle in starting those organizations? Because I know that, in the creative industry, it's very difficult, to find funding, to fund your works or find the projects that you're trying to do. So how are you able to kick off and start off your businesses?
Yeah, no, completely. I think that's a really good question. So I think, first of all, I was a very non-compromising young woman. So I called my mum saying that this was either this worked, either that was it. So like, it was just, I don't think I was prepared for it to kind of not go well. I had a lot of drive to kind of make this happen. And I think, sadly, that is still required for a traditional sector. I did a campaign with Kimai, who are a lab-grown diamond company who are disrupting currently the diamond sector. Sadly, it's not just financial, the struggle, it's bullying, intimidation, and anything that takes to change the traditional sector, because they don't want you to change it. It's that's as simple as that. So not only was it difficult to get the funding in the first place, but I was getting horrible anonymous emails, social media intimidations, all those things in the first 2 years, which is when you are insecure, broke, and trying to do it. So it's much easier now when you're confident and things are going well to kind of take that on. So I think the realities of, and my lovely man is in the tech sector, so they embrace being disruptive. They love it. So I'm in the opposite sector, like they don't embrace being disruptive. So not only, yes, absolutely, there's no professional structure to get funding. So it's really hard as a woman because, taking a man on a glass of wine is kind of a date-ish. So like, it's not like you're pitching to a VC, and there's actually no VCs that are specialized in what we do in this sector. But on this, and that's changing. And I really think in just 5 years, and hopefully I've started also backing companies, I think that's going to evolve as diversity is also coming in place and women investors are coming in place. But I think the biggest struggle was not financial. It was just the fact that, I'm working against a group of people that do not want the system to change, and they are largely and any traditional sector will be behaving that way.
Yeah, I see Sabina and Ola agreeing with you. Does any ladies want to add on that as well? Because obviously there are different sectors to the creative arts industry. So it's not just, art per se. You have architecture, you even have cooking. I discovered is also an art form. But Sabina, what would you like to add to that?
Well, honestly, I had just to nod all the time because people have this misassumption that fashion is run by women because there's so many women working in fashion, and it's mostly women working in fashion. But the higher positions, the founders, they're mostly men, and you can feel it, you can see it, especially when it comes to money, to funding, to pitching. And I loved what Maureen said, that you can't just like go for a glass of wine and become friends and then help each other out and have each other's backs and all these things, because there's always a misunderstanding of what you actually wanted, and people never see you in a professional manner. It's very difficult. And then I think the fashion industry in general is a very elite industry and has a lot of problems with inclusivity and diversity, and we know that. And it's not fun to kind of like lead or have a head position in the fashion industry, and you're confronted with a of sex remarks on a daily basis. But I think that's why it's even more important that we as women have each other's backs, because while obviously this kind of system is made and run by men, there are equally enough women who are helping upholding it as well. So that's just one thing I would like to add. Again, this is something that we can all do on a daily basis, like a self-check, what we do, how we contribute to lifting each other up and helping other women. Because I have to say that looking back at my career, it was mostly incredible women who pushed me to the next step and who really encouraged me to do better. And that helped me to kind of like ignore the men that tried to drag me down.
Yeah. Wow, I love this. And again, this is a platform where we can discuss these things, because normally, we hear about the lack of pay or the force that as women we have to do to open doors in certain industries. So I think it's important that we have platforms like such that people are able to express and really tell you the honest, real truth about being in this industry. Katie, I'm going to throw this question over to you. So you've just opened up your own agency. Now, I know agencies are very different because you have to go and network, you have to get new clientele. What inspired you to create your own? Oh, I think you're on mute, Katie.
Is that better?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I guess it's more about you know, I love working with a team, and, you know, from my experience of working in-house, so I started my career kind of in-house working with different brands. And I guess once you've worked in-house for quite a while, you get into a bit of a rhythm of things, and, you know, you go through seasons and you go through the motions and you go to launch collections, and it does get quite monotonous. And I thought, you know, I want to do this for many brands, and I want to experience, you know, luxury brands, I want to experience lifestyle brands. And so it was trying to think of a way to kind of access a wider platform. And I guess when I went over to Scene, it was predominantly to open their international office. So I spent a lot of time in New York, exploring a new market. Soon come to realise, and I don't know whether Odo can actually relate to this, New York's a beast. And like you said, it's like keeping up with the pace of everything, and, you know, meeting clients. I wasn't over there full time. It became really tricksy. And I was over there trying to run a satellite office and a UK office. And so although now we have got a New York presence, my priority is the London team. And I guess it's about throwing myself into all of the amazing clients that we've got here. And, you know, I'm quite a big extrovert. I love meeting people, and, you know, I wanted to be in the position to not only help my brands, but also, you know, nurture a team and lead other people and inspire other people, meet amazing creatives. So yeah, I guess running an agency allows you to do that. It gives you the flexibility to be, you know, and to kind of mold something that you want to mold. So yeah, it was more just wanting to support other people and brands. And that's the reason that I thought, you know, running something that was my own, I could kind of navigate the industry in a way that I felt was best for now, basically.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just want to correct. I know you're the managing director at Scene, so you don't have your own agency. I just want to correct that there. So sorry if that was a bit of a break.
No, that's okay.
But thank you so much for that. And it's very, very important, again, because such agencies like that, where you are in such a position, again, you're also opening doors for other women to come through as well. So that stuff like that is very, very important. I wanted to throw this question over, as we were talking about brands. Vassia, you can help us with this. Talk to us about your journey in luxury retail. You've worked for some credible brands such as Christian Dior, Philippe Lim. What was it like working with such brands? I think you're on mute. There we go.
3.1 Philippe Lim, it's like more, it's not a luxury brand, it's more everyday brand, and it's more avant-garde, let's say.
Yeah.
It has more classic lines with a twist, because you can wear it from very early morning to attend your meeting till night. It depends how you style yourself. It's much more easy to style, especially if you work for a mono brand and you have like a lot of options from the collection. It's more easy to do the styling. Yeah, for example, if you work for a multi-brand store or boutique, and you have much more options to style a women, because everyone is different and the personality needs to be uplifted with very nice outfits as well. Christian Dior has a very, very structured style as well. So you have to appreciate all the heritage and all the luxury vibe of the brand as well. But it's very, for me, because 80% of the job is being able to communicate. So it doesn't matter what brand you work with. It depends how determined and driven you are to provide your services to all these women that you connect with. So you have to listen as well. You have to study the customer and to learn how they want to look after. Because for me, it's my clients, is my priority to build this connection, because it's so difficult to build the connection. Because when you enter, for example, as So you can see from yourself, you can enter to a boutique and you don't want someone to bother you by asking questions and all that stuff. So you have to find the line and the meaningful way to connect with them. I don't know, how do you feel about you want to solve something, but sometimes you need a direction, but some other times you need your freedom to select your own stuff. So if you have an experienced salespersons next to you, they might help you to find the right product or their own product as well. I don't know, how do you feel about it? Have you ever experienced like a bad service?
In a retail business, or
I can hear you.
With a brand?
Sorry, can you come again? Because I didn't hear you.
Oh, have I had a bad experience working with
in general,
a luxury brand? Oh.
In a luxury brand or not a luxury brand, it's not a necessity.
Yeah, I mean, you come across cases where you do have you don't have the best of customer services from certain brands, and sometimes it does make you not want to shop there just because of the service that you've received. So on that side, yeah.
Okay. Because that's, I think it's very important for me, the connection and the approach, the way you approach people in general.
Yeah, it can determine whether people still want to shop with you, continue. I mean, fashion is something that, makes everybody feel good. But then sometimes if you do approach a place where the customer service isn't that great, it kind of deters you from really wanting to associate yourself with that brand or even continue buying stuff from them. So yeah, in that sense.
You want to have this experience, right? Because you're willing to invest or to spend something. So you want to share all this experience as well.
Yeah. That's very, very important. So, Oda, I'm going to throw this over to you. Talk to us about the House of Creation. Now, this is a very interesting name. I love the name House of Creation because it doesn't limit it to just one thing. It's like a house full of creatives, a creating house. So, how did you come up with that name, and what exactly is the House of Creation?
I think it started with crear, which is, the origin for creating. And it was important for me not to limit it to, because I could have easily called it Oda and my last name's, architectural design studio or, design studio, which is what a lot of people do, right? And then you're known for that by your name. But for me, if I wanted to be true to my sort of idea of what I wanted to do, I wanted it to be a platform, a studio where it's an interdisciplinary studio. So how do you do that and not limited in the name? So that's how the House of Creation came up, because crear is too complicated in a sense. So it was evolved into creation. And I am a creative director, so it said itself in that sense that's the right name. And I am in the startup phase, but I think with my project in New York and the press that it's going to get now, I think it showcased that, because it's a lot of times that people don't necessarily understand exactly what you do. And this is a platform where I can offer any service with my team that I'm hopefully going to build up, but it's going to be a studio where, if you want down to the art piece, that you can get that as well. If you want that sculpture, if you want that special interior design to work with your aesthetics, even down to your fashion garments, right? Because it's all of a mutual language. So that's sort of the idea about it. Yeah.
And you're also a brand ambassador. You're also an ambassador. Talk to us about that.
Yes. So while I was in New York, I came across a brand called Ladies Nation, which is also about female empowerment.
Oh,
and yes,
Ladies
so yes. And she's from Serbia, and she started this brand in New York, and I loved her drive and what she represented. And she was approaching it through the part of being a dancer, which is what I used to be before. I used to be dancing professionally. And I think I just connected with her in that sense. And she wanted me to come up on board with this brand. And we did a lot of shoots with, movement, dancing related. And it was just such a powerful voice to be a part of. So I do that on the side as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Now we're going to go to Sabina. One thing I love is that you're a lecturer. So I think it's so important to have lecturers and teachers who have active hands-on experience in the subjects they teach. So tell us about it. What is it like being a lecturer? Because I know, you have the students that are very dedicated, but you may have some students that are still trying to find themselves. So as a lecturer and somebody who's involved in the arts as well, how is it for you?
It's such an interesting journey for me because while I did enjoy my studies, I must say I'm definitely the hands down person that enjoys working more than studying. I did struggle with the educational system in general back in high school, but also through university. I only have a BA. I didn't go for an MA in the end because, first of all, I spent a lot of money on my BA, but also because I never wanted to proceed with an educational career because I felt this is just not for me. I never felt comfortable. There was definitely for me a lack of real kind of like life in industry experience as part of my studies. And especially in fashion design, I felt that when I started my company, I didn't know anything about the business aspect, about the logistics aspect. And I was quite lucky that I had a lot of experience from working in this industry, but that experience was actually the thing that helped me and not the education necessary. So when I was given the opportunity to join the lecturer team and to come to universities and, share my experience, first I thought my first reaction was no, never ever I'm gonna go back to uni, never ever I'm gonna do that. And thinking back how annoyed I was with the lecturers and how bad I spoke about them sometimes, I didn't want to be on that other side and being judged by all the students. I was kind of scared that karma will get me. But I have to say that this is one of the jobs I really, really, really enjoy because there's so much I can learn from the next generation of creatives that are coming along. And I feel a certain responsibility as well to share kind of like the real thing and the real stuff that is happening. And I always tell them the theoretical stuff is super important that they learn from others. It's really important to know what you're talking about. But equally, I'm really happy to be there and be able to share things with them that you can't Google. And that's what I always tell them. I'll be like, I'll be here to tell you about the things that you can't Google, that you can only experience. So maybe I can save you from some of the mistakes that I did. I'm currently lecturing on the MA Innovation and Entrepreneurship course at London College of Fashion. So I didn't focus on design, which I actually like as well. So that was for me kind of a turning point to focus more on business concepts and business modeling and understanding that design by itself won't be enough for a sustainable solution, that it has to be more than that. So I have to say that by starting to lecture, it felt like I went back to uni myself and just explored new things and approach.
That's amazing. That's honestly amazing and inspirational. I do want to say for those who are watching, please do ask questions. Our panelists are here to answer every question that you have. So please type in, let us know your thoughts. What do you think so far? What things are you getting from it? And what questions do you have for our guest panelists? Maureen, a question that I have to ask you is, what are some of the things that you've had to endure in creating or in fact building your own agency? Because I think a lot of the times we may see the glamorous side of it, but what have been the kind of hardships that you've had to face in bringing or raising the agency up?
I think I think I'm an entrepreneur because I do love learning. So without sounding like a saint, I generally like to be challenged and I generally like to learn about things I don't know about. So while it might be things I don't enjoy, I had to do the accountancy, legals, amazing. I should have definitely married a lawyer. Sadly, I didn't, because that would have saved me not only a lot of time, but lots of money too. I think there's just loads of things to learn. I think the learning that I think is most important, because I think you can outsource legals, finance, all of these things, but the second you grow, which we have done since, are people. I think people are like the toughest learning curve because, in our jobs, and I think I actually know also Emily from Scene, and I feel like when you manage people, and that's the hardest, because if you think of a public art project, or if you think, so when we did, for instance, a project in Paris, which covered the Champ de Mars, which was 800 meters, That was the Eiffel Tower, the Guardian, the FT, the Mayor of Paris, 30 companies financing, and a talent, right? They all think differently. They actually politically don't partially align, and they all have very different reasons why they're in this partnership. So you have to train really quickly on how do you handle conflict? What do people actually want? How do you train empathy as well? And you make sure that you really understand every side of the conversation. And I think that's the toughest learning curve, because you sadly make mistakes at the start. There's no other way to learn. Like, there's no schooling. And I agree with Sabina. I just wish soft skills were better taught. I wish all these things were taught early on, because it's a horrible feeling to be making those mistakes on somebody else, because that does impact people's life. But that's, I think, the one I'm the proudest of, as much as sadly that's also the toughest, because when you make hard decisions, it's hard on the psyche. But it's also the one I'm the proudest, because I think our job has given me so much more empathy, like it's given me so much more understanding of how people can come from different angle. And that's the reason why we can bring a Crown Estate with someone that is not partially from the Crown Estate radar onto a partnership, onto all these projects. Or last year, we did a feminist festival in Saudi Arabia with Vice. That's the sort of situations where I just love it. I know that this conversation is so essential, and yet, like, it could go wrong at any given time. And the only thing that it has taught me is to really make sure that you bring people together. So, but sadly, that has implied mistakes that were hard at the start.
Yeah. Wow. Honestly, if you just catch me saying wow, it's because I'm taking everything here. This is good stuff. I'm excited to be on this panel, to be honest. Katie, I'm trying to say, what advice would you give to young women wanting to follow in your footsteps?
Oh, good question. I guess, as I kind of introduce myself, I said I took quite a traditional route into what I do. So yes, I did a degree. I don't know whether a degree is necessarily necessary though. I did find it super helpful for kind of giving me those few extra years to help explore what I wanted to do, build out a portfolio. I guess that's something that I found really important, is building that kind of portfolio of works and exploring kind of different disciplines and mediums. So I guess one top tip would be build that portfolio, even if you're not going to a university, continue learning, continue building on your skill set, and how can you show that off? But then I guess if you were coming out of school, I did a foundation year. Again, you can do that before you do a degree. That was really explorative. So I guess if you were going to do one part of the kind of further extracurricular like kind of ladder, I'd definitely say a foundation is worth it. For example, I was going to go into photography at one point, and my story could have been quite different, but it kind of gave me the platform to really explore. Aside from that, I'd definitely say work experience. And I think, well, I'd like to think that all of the ladies on the panel would kind of agree, like work experience is invaluable. I did that a lot while I was at uni. And also you can do it in your holidays as well. I worked at WGSN and did kind of trend forecasting. I worked in a fashion house and did, the whole fashion thing, and had those horror stories of, different tales. But, things are different now. And, the industry, as much as it is a bit of a beast still, people are there to support other people. And, like we've already touched upon, we are here to champion people. And, even in my own agency, we run, mentorship programs, we run different internship programs where we try and get people in and understand what do they want to get from their next career step, and how can we support them. So yeah, it's kind of just gaining that knowledge and meeting people. There's that age-old kind of saying of like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I do kind of believe it is a bit of that. You need to kind of be on your game, but also there's an element of truth of just talking to people and, following up on those opportunities, understanding what people's motivations are and how can you support them in their journey as well. So yeah, kind of just work hard. Work hard and believe in yourself.
Honestly. And one thing I really love is people is essential in every single person's sector. You need people to make these things work. Essentially, everything you are doing is essentially for the people. And Katie, sticking with you, the one thing that I know that a lot of people want to ask is, if they are starting up a business, what kind of level does a brand have to be to kind of come to you and your company and use your expertise? What level do they have to be at?
As in, if a brand was going to come to us?
Yes.
So I guess we work with brands, at completely different stages. So we might work with brands that are predominantly online, for example, and they want to start realizing themselves in the physical space. So we would work with them on building that strategy, building the design, building their kind of tone of voice and their language. And really doing everything from that strategy piece all the way through to, installing the last fixture and fitting within a store. But then we also work with, really huge established brands. So one of the brands I've been working with kind of the last 5 years is Nike. I work with them on a complete spectrum of projects. So, we might have a new trainer launch that they want to come to us with, and how they can amplify that in their store. Or they might want to do an event. They might have a kind of running initiative that they want to push to their members, and we would work to how they can engage consumers in different levels with that. So it's a real spectrum, and there's no real kind of like one answer fits all. We talk to all brands, whether they're teeny tiny and they're opening their first kind of shop, all the way through to, much larger kind of brands such as kind of Nike and McQueen, Jimmy Choo, a real spectrum.
Yeah. Now this is for all the ladies, so whoever wants to go first. But what brand would you say that you've worked with that kind of opened your eyes to a bigger picture? What brand would you say was your favorite brand to work with? I don't know if you're allowed to say that, but what brand did you say you worked with and you was like, this is my fave? I'll go with Vassia since you unmuted yourself first.
For me, aesthetically, I have some favorite brands that would be Jil Sander, of course, Christian Dior, or Kite. It's American brand. It's very simple and elegant, but doesn't matter what brand is. For me, it's the people you work with. So maybe it's amazing brand and huge and everything, it's great. But if you're not surrounded by the best team that you could have, it's not working for me. So whether you work like for yourself as a freelancer or you are a leader of a team, it really matters to me to be kind to people, because always the good you offer comes back to you. And this would be my advice to everyone. Because fashion is very competitive sector as well, so you need to be very confident, because you have a lot of times that you might struggle. So you have to be driven, passionate about fashion. You of course you have to love fashion, because you're gonna be surrounded 24/7 by it. So there's no time to be bored of fashion. So you have to be informed as well, like keeping up to date with international news. You have to be fully aware with social media, with everything, because you have to follow, to be ahead and not to follow the game, right? So keeping up to date, to have good morals, be kind, and hard work. It's one of my best advice to everyone.
Great. So I'm good. Before we go on to the rest of our panel, we've got some audience questions. So yes. So the first question we have is from Anita. A warm welcome, ladies. How do you keep your creative tank full, and what measures have you undertaken to pivot your business? I am going to get Ola to answer this actually. How do you keep your creative tank full?
Being surrounded with other creative souls. I think, because you don't know it all, right? You feed off of other talents. And I think me reaching out to Simone Turner and Alicia Brickner, which is two amazing female sculpturists, that just gave me another fuel for what I wanted to do with the interiors, because they were very specific in their art form. I think, when you work with other female creators or even male, you can evolve. And I think that's important, that you evolve with other people have other ideas. And I think it's important to keep going at that. And that's how I sort of fuel on it. And also, I constantly, go out and get ideas around in my surroundings. So that's how I always, and then social media, the way it's evolved, you constantly get inputs. Yeah.
Love that. I mean, I wish we could go out and fuel our creative tanks outside as well in London, but unfortunately, we're stuck indoors. Okay, next question is from Clement. Question for Marie. How do you make a sustainable income managing artists, and what tips would you give someone wanting to start a talent management business?
So income-wise, we have 3 different types of income. So obviously, all the sector is only selling art on walls. I say only because I'm obviously surrounded by art right now. But we have diversified that by not just selling artworks, but also doing public art partnerships, that's cities, governments, real estate, councils, but also brand collaborations. Maybe you saw we just launched a big campaign with My Teresa last week, which is one of our partners. And we also have something with L'Occitane on, and we're thinking their retail that's currently on Regent Street as well. And we've done tons of creative collaborations, like I mentioned, with Vice or festivals. So for us, we've kind of applied the revenue streams you normally have is in a talent agency, like a CA, UTA, William Morris in LA. And then we've transferred that way of working onto the art world. Tips, I think, make sure that you have clients that you can rely on to for the first year and a half, because it is really hard to install all of these different revenue streams. So although we now are partnering the way with brand collaboration of public art, the fact that I had 6 years of working experience, having people buying art for me, meant I could finance this and have revenue and profit that could therefore finance the TED Talk, the Academy paper on public art, everything that could build our expertise into making sure we could do the rest. So for me, just before launching anything, just make sure you have those clients or you've networked enough that they can sustain you, because it does take time to have that reputation of people who will come to you and do those projects.
Right. Thank you so much, Marie. And next question. Lauren V, what advice would you give to your younger self as a recent graduate? Oh, let's throw this over to Sabina.
Oh, this is such a good question. I think the first one would be just not to lose hope, because I can imagine that this is a very, very stressful time. It's always stressful to break into an industry, to find that first job, to get that first opportunity. But now with the pandemic, and if you look at the UK with Brexit, it is more challenging than ever. I would also just suggest to be very realistic, and it's amazing to dream and it's important and great, but I also think that it's good to sit down and just look at the options you have. Even if you want to start a business, maybe you want to start a business, but also look for a job at the same time, because you want to be able to sustain yourself. You want to be able to have a certain balance. So it doesn't always have to be the perfect scenario from day one. And I think it's good to bear that in mind. So just look at the options maybe. And I loved what Katie actually said in the beginning, that after she graduated, she didn't even know that there are these jobs out there in the fashion industry, because quite often you only know from these 5 jobs, and because you studied design, you need to work in design. But to be honest, you will have a set of incredible skills that you can apply to other jobs as well. So just be open-minded about the opportunities out there, and nothing will be wasted, because wherever you go, whatever your first job might be or first experience will be, you can take the best out of it and then take that and use it for your next opportunity. So just be realistic, don't lose hope, and don't aim for the perfect case scenario for now, but it will come at some point.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Sabina. And the last question before we round up. Genuine Love, I love that name. How has your role adapted to the current situation in the pandemic? Katie?
Good question. I guess, leading an agency, and we've touched on it before actually, when Maureen was talking about that management of people, as well as managing clients and expectations, managing your team, the kind of the last year has been tricky. And not only, I mentioned, I didn't mention, I had a baby boy in November 2019 and actually spent like the whole of my maternity leave basically in a pandemic, and
Wow.
I had an agency and I was trying to manage it in arm's length, which was, tricky, as you can imagine. But, my main priority was the people and making sure the team felt motivated. So I guess just going back to the question, it's, looking at, kind of managing that team. And, you forget that not only are you trying to be hyper creative and you're trying to run an agency, you're also HR, you're also finance, you're also legal, you're also trying to motivate people, make sure people are treating themselves well. So looking at wellness and mental health issues. And I think the pandemic has kind of taught us that all of that is really important. And, we need to consider how people are feeling around us. And sometimes you need to step away from the core DNA of the agency and actually look at the team around you and make sure that they're A-okay and that they're doing, they're doing well. Because if you don't have a happy camp, you're not gonna succeed. And you need to, they kind of say it takes a village to raise a child. I feel like it's the same with business. You kind of need those people around you. So the last year's been quite, I guess, emotive for me, not only raising my little boy, but also making sure that my agency is nourished in the right way as well.
I love that. Absolutely love that. So to round up, one thing, I'm going to start off with Katie. I'm going to stick with you and then we're going to go around. But Katie, you have over a decade of industry experience. What would you say what's the one key lesson that you've learned in the business that you would advise young women?
Ooh, picking one's going to be hard. I guess I've kind of touched on it before, but it's about just meeting people and, getting to know people and following up on opportunities. I guess when I was really early on in my career, my main aim was almost to make myself a bit indispensable, go above and beyond what's expected of you or your role, be the helpful one, show your initiative, ask questions. Can I do more? What else can I do to help your life easier? And, they're the people that, that others want around them. They want people that are going to lift them up. And then eventually you'll be in that position and you'll want to do the same for other people. So I guess it's, just network as much as possible and be indispensable.
I love that. Oda, what advice would you give to young women who possibly want to follow in your footsteps?
I think there's been a lot of great things that's already been said. And I think you need to know that it's okay to fail. I think that's, you after school, you're super stressed of what you want to do if you've been in school. And I think if I hadn't made the mistakes I have, I wouldn't have managed to get to where I am, because you grow from those mistakes unless they're fatal. But I think accepting that, and also ask for help from others, find other people who you get someone to be your mentor or guidance, right? To see what they have done that you can do or get help in that area. I think that's really key. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. There were so many key points that you touched on, a mentor, but also understanding that it's okay to fail. I think, in this generation, we don't like to fail. We want to have that win-win. We just want to go. But sometimes your learning is in the failing experiences. So it is okay to fail, because from that, I always say I've never made a loss. It's always a lesson learned. So, it's that's a very, very good tip. Thank you so much. Vassia, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to follow into your footsteps? Oh, you're on mute. There we go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think that my best advice is that they shouldn't give up on your dreams, because personally I left a career in finance and I took the risk to follow my dream, which was fashion, like to acquire a career in fashion. So yeah, as Sabrina said before, you have to stay realistic, but at the same time, you have to follow your heart and your really desire, what you desire is. Because at the end of the day, you have to love what you do, you have to enjoy what you do, and you have to invest in yourself. But as the other lady said as well, it's nothing wrong if you have failed sometimes, because you keep learning, you invest in yourself and even your struggles. So all that and all this journey that you have been going through, it will get there at the end. So yeah, for me, don't even afraid to take the risks, because I did it and I'm happy with my choices right now.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And we're happy that you decided to take the course that you did, because then you wouldn't be here with us on this panel this morning. So thank you
very much. It was my pleasure to meet all of you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And Sabina, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to be following in your footsteps?
I would say that it's important to define what success means to you. So again, don't follow anyone else's footsteps, just make your own journey. It's always great to look at other stories for inspiration, definitely not to follow them from A to Z. What is it that makes you special? Why should you be a founder of something? Why should you be part of that team? So definitely define what success means to you, because at the end of the day, someone else's success is not the absence of your own commitment or your own success. And I think quite often people are trapped in this comparison between each other and what did this other person do, or how does society define success, or how are you being seen by others or taken seriously by others. But at the very beginning, I think it's so important to really define for yourself, what is it that you want? When will you be happy? You know, how do you want your life to look like? And then define what that means to you, and with that define the success, and then move on.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Marine, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to follow in your footsteps?
Well, that echoes all the advice already given. I think the one I will give is for people who are the decision makers, if they become the decision makers, is to care less about being liked, but more about respect and fairness. And so that way, every decision hopefully becomes easier in the long term, but maybe not in the short term.
Yeah, I have to touch on that. That is so key and so very important, because one thing I've learned in the creative industry is that we all tend to want to please each other. And sometimes it doesn't work like that. You cannot please everybody, and certain things need to get done. And I think being a creative is very different to, you know, working the corporate world. Literally, our mind is going 24/7. And so for us, it's about getting the things done and being creative at the same time without losing the passion that we have behind it. So that's very key. I want to thank you ladies so much for joining us on this panel today. Every bit of advice that was given, every sort of information that was shared, wisdom, in fact, not information, let's say wisdom, that was shared today was absolutely amazing. I really do hope that people go back, they take notes, and also make sure you find our panelists on social. In fact, if you can say your socials, so people can follow you. Sabina, what's your...
So my social, it's Sabina, just what you see, the name that is written there, _com is for the brand. And then if you look for Sabina, my last name is complicated, Rachimova. I'll put it in the chat in a second. You will find me on LinkedIn and on Instagram as well.
Amazing. Marine?
MT Art Agency, MTART Agency, and then Marine Tanguy Art for my personal.
Katie?
So it's at Scenes, SEEN displays for Instagram. And then obviously Katie Mitchell for my LinkedIn.
Amazing. Oda?
So for my business account, it's houseofcreation.no, and my personal is Oda Blanca.
Thank you. And Vassia?
My name is Vassia Chrysanthopoulou on LinkedIn, and on Instagram is vassia.chr. Maureen, she always, she already followed me, so I keep on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shirin. And I hope you guys, you amazing ladies, network within each other. But please, again, you are able to go back and view this. Make sure you share it with your friends, your family. We just celebrated International Women's Day, but personally, I think it should always be International Women's Day because women are just amazing, as we can see on this panel today. So please make sure you go back, follow our panelists. And if you do have any questions, I guess people are allowed to ask you it within there, right? Don't bother them like that, but please do ask questions. It is very essential to everybody's growth. So again, thank you so much, ladies, for joining our panel. Also follow me, Mika_Abraham on Instagram, Mika_Abraham1 on Twitter, and on LinkedIn. Yeah, might as well add the LinkedIn as well, Mika Abraham. I've been your host for today's session. This is WOTC Now Women Summit, and we have another panel or workshop that we have coming on after, and it's about finances. We all love money, so please make sure you stay tuned to the summit. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon.